alienating or making them feel that they aren't, and I've seen this happen, I'm looking for a polite way to say it, not rejecting what they have to offer, always keeping that door open. So again, it comes back to communication and relationships.
What strategies would you use to build relationships?
Typically, especially with healthcare, that there's periodic meetings where you can collaborate. I would think within this position, Bad River being right next door, and there's the other reservation communities, looking at what they have on the horizon, where we are with that particular topic, and how can we work together to have a mutual beneficial outcome. So then it's, having, looking to other reservations, similar roles as this, and then looking outside within the community. I know with, this is years ago when I was in healthcare informatics, that was a pretty up and coming thing. They actually had a group that met monthly, talking through what is the next objective or the next initiative that's coming, and of course that goes into the possibility of grants and other things when we can work together as a non-for-profit. That's kind of the beauty of it in a non-for-profit, is no one should be stepping on each other's toes. We're all working to do something good.
How would you evaluate the Family and Human Services Division to know if the work is effective in reaching the travel-wide initiatives and desired outcomes?
First, looking at, what is the goal? What's the prime goal? Where are we with that, and how do we measure up against other tribes? And how do we measure up nationally? And of course, that
Wait for someone to test it. I would test it myself, but you don't have the microphone on.
Nora, can you hear us over there?
Colleen! But I can see you, Jim.
Rick is gonna get on virtual too. All right, sorry everybody. We had a lot of items to cover in executive session today, so the council did take action on a number of items in the executive session related to policy, federal action plan, a special release request condition, and then the rest of it was personnel related. So, moving to community comments and concerns. First on our agenda, Marvin, Eaton. If you would please push the button on the right. Thank you for waiting.
We're not the three wise men, we're the three wise asses. No.
Okay, you said it.
Over here, also for a couple things. First off, we want to hand out a flyer for you. And I also want to hand out some same for the council to invite you to an event. A very important event we're having this Friday. We're going to acknowledge this man right here, D.G. Rhonda Perry, one of the last survivors of an arrest that took place right out here in the Bay 55 years ago, 1969. So we're going to hand out the flyer. I'm very honored the secretary gentleman here, Jim Peake, he's here too because his father, Uncle Butch Lewis, I always call him like Uncle Butch, was in the boat. Also we invited Dick Bertle's family, he was in the boat, Alan Bear, Roger Basney, Philip Gordon. The reason why I mention these individuals is I went around to every one of their families for the last 2 weeks, weekend, gave them the tobacco and inviting their families to this event. And they were very honored. They're very honored to participate. The next thing that come out of their mouth was, what can I bring? Can I bring some food? Was the next thing that came out of their mouth. We wanted to help out. Also, I think it's important to note, also on there, we have, Bad River, Tommy Connors and Tom Derrigan, is on there, Tom Derrigan on there, and those of us in Red Cliff, we really didn't know that part of the story, what happened there. But if you realize that Vernal versus State Street includes Red Cliff and also Bad River, right? All from Bad River. So we've been reaching out to that family, and we invited those families to come here too. And we want to hear that story, we want to hear what happened. So we come here for that. I'm gonna hand this tobacco if you guys want to say something else about it. I just want to give you today, my wife, Counselor. With the council here, we also want to invite the fishermen. Fishermen in our community too, that's not a very that meeting that retired. Home fishermen we do. The fisher eaters are more than welcome to come. And we have meeting content, and we want to make sure we make a personal appearance. After respectfully receive the offer, more than welcome to come and hear what we have to say. And it's important in our lives, I think, to know our history, to know what our people have gone through. What we have gone through, our people in our community have gone through. You know, you probably know just as well as I do, but Kenny Bass, you remember what he's gone through with Mike the whole time, how many times they got arrested because they wanted to catch a fish in the lake to feed the family. That's right here, right here. And these guys and gentlemen who on that flyer are the ones 55 years ago who, my opinion, sacrificed their lives for our people. Get arrested. Put their lives on the line, and those people of Bad River also the same thing. You got arrested. So that's why we're here. Part of that why we're here is to invite not just the council, but those in the audience. Those in the audience also, we're more than welcome to come this Friday. And we may listen to this man here, the needs here, Ron McBurry, tell that story. Tell that story what happened. There's even some here sitting on the council that I recently learned just a week ago was there too. Laura, right? Right, you're probably, how old are you? 4 years old. You're sitting right up the...
Sitting on the banks with my mom and
right.
brother and 2 sisters.
Right. We got a lady, I don't know if she's Marlene here. Yeah, Marlene, she was talking to Marlene, but I seen her the other day, invited her family to come, and she remembers, you remember there too, eh? Yeah. Oh, Gus was there, a little bitty. Gus wasn't born yet.
You were first, Bob.
So with that, we want to invite you. We got one other item we would like to address. One other item we would like to address, and we're having in the planning of this, we want to have it here. But also in the planning, we wanted it to be special. We wanted to have a feast. A feast. And we were working with, our committee was working, our group was working with, to have a travel member, Chris Bagley, pull it together and have a feast. And we're all excited about pulling that all together. There's even other people, we're going to bring feast food. peaceful to the event, but we got told today, this morning, that we couldn't do that here at the casino. We got told that. And that's why, that's part of the reason why we're here. Is we want to ask, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's a health thing or if it's, we're having it here or what, I really don't know. But I guess we're asking the council for your approval, I guess, for your, to have the feast here. And it's really kind of rubbed us a little uncomfortable. We're trying to do a good thing, we're trying to do a good thing to have a feast here. And, you know, that's happened throughout time here. We have a feast, well, you can't, you gotta order food from the casino. We want to ask, or we want to request that we can move forward with the plans that we wanted to have in the feast is to have Chris Basby and community members bring food there. Here at the facility. That's it, that's all.
Mark, how were you able to have a potluck feast at the language immersion community input session?
We just made it. You know, we had a feast.
Well, yeah, I mean, the whole table was full
Right.
of potluck things all down the whole entire
Right.
wall, so.
We just had a feast. I'm not sure what, we had no problem then. You know, but apparently for this event, we are having some issues with that. It upsets us.
This is the first time hearing of it, so it hasn't been brought to tribal administration, just so the council knows, not that we didn't attempt to intervene or work through the situation. So I'm not sure of all the details behind policy or who's saying no or what has been discussed to get around. I'm not sure. I don't have any other information administratively.
Well, and being involved with the planning of this, and again, it's been going on for a couple of months, there was a concern, about making sure that the procedures were followed. And so, for them to get payment, to go through the process so that those that were going to get a stipend, that was all taken care of. The idea, when it was discussed how to do the food part, and then it was, decision or felt that it would be best to have someone from the outside do that. And then Chris Basney's the experience, in doing these kind of gatherings. And again, in that part, wanting to make sure that we had the approval, to do that. Again, not knowing who said it, how it got around, but there was a verbal indication about 2 weeks ago that yes, you can do the meal that way. Currently, Friday, Jared Blanche, when he checked something out about the meal, was told by someone at LW here, we can't do that. So that throws everything into like a whirlwind here. And so the request is to allow Chris to do this event, this historical, traditional, cultural event with the feast and the food and the prayers and all of that stuff. And if there's a change in the way the casino is going to be operating to not allow, things like this to happen, there's a new GM that's starting. That's one of his first duties can be, to pull that into place. Because it hasn't been consistent over the years. There was a time when you put on a meal for something, and people were told, no, you cannot take any food left over. Later on, the casino is giving out those little takeout boxes to do it. So it hasn't been consistent. So let us just have this start off new with this new manager and kind of putting these policies or whatever procedures in place.
So, Chairwoman, if I may, I called bingo yesterday for a fundraiser, right? The entire table was filled with food. I don't know what the significance or difference is between us doing these kind of benefits and having something that is culturally relevant and important to not allow them. I don't know who said no, but I think sometimes our cultural, we just talked about this earlier in executive, our culture should become a priority, and I don't feel that this is an unreasonable request on my opinion.
Well, Chris cooks for many community large events, so I'm not sure. I don't know all the facts. That's the, I just am hearing your side of the story just right now at 5:30 on Monday night, and it's on Friday. The event's on Friday, so,
And we didn't anticipate anything, I can tell you the honest, we thought, well, because we did it before. We didn't anticipate, but just kind of do it, it's 3 or 4 days before the event, we're all set up, ready to go. And it's like Butch has indicated, it's kind of loud over here and loud over here and this over here. It's not clear. I think what Jim is saying for this time, for this time, let's move forward with it. And I think there's enough there that we could explore and see exactly what's going on there.
yeah, I
And
think
we
it
don't
could have
know.
been handled administratively if it would have been brought to the administration. So I guess that's my critical feedback, is that the GM implements the policies approved by the council. So yeah, I don't know that I'm assuming you're looking for council action to allow this. Is that what you're asking? Or just our blessing?
Whatever action needs to be taken for this particular thing, an approval is by the council regardless so that we can proceed with it, because there is preparation that has to be done. And they're planning on serving approximately 75 people. So Chris is going to do it. He started getting ready for that because he thought he was doing it. He pulled back. He said he needs to know by tomorrow so that he can go ahead, with the planning and get things prepared. If it's not approved for him to do it, and the Legendary Waters is going to do it, then they need the prep plan. But the preference here, and the desire here is for this one to allow Chris Vazin to do the fees, and then we can move forward.
I think that can be taken care of administratively, just proceed with that, on that route. One comment, I guess, as you say, is starting to prepare. I just hope he's not gonna serve frozen fish.
We need fresh fish, yeah. Well, you know what we wanted, is the first fish that they caught when they're in that boat, was
A
sucker.
bunch of suckers.
Sucker, right. So we hope we can get the sucker for the feast.
We're going to have sucker net soup.
Okay, so administration and address it.
We can address it tomorrow.
Uh,
Or maybe I can reach Ray tonight, the new GM. I work.
Can the council just make a motion?
Work in my
say yes,
sleep.
and we can go on, send him the wait till tomorrow. Wait till tomorrow.
Well, we
Well,
have,
it's
we have a
supposed
new
to-
leader put in place, so we have to go through, we have to vet that. It's just a process.
I myself think that you can get over that. This is a unique situation. I mean, if we would have known earlier this was gonna happen, someone could have went to administration. Just call them to me. 4 days before this event's going on. And what I suggest at the meeting today is, well, let's cancel it down here and we'll have it up at the youth center since it's such a big deal. That was an option. The other option, like I said, if they don't allow this, if the casino to go on, they can't serve fish anymore. The whole thing is about this fishing rights that our ancestors took, upon themselves to reaffirm that And here we're fighting over this meal because of a policy.
I don't think anyone's fighting over the meal or the policy, and I think it's unanimously heard from the council that it's not a concern on our level. But it is concerning to me to have people come to the council and community comment and expect the council to take some kind of action. That's concerning to me. And so I'm asking the council to allow the administration to deal with it. And I think you expressed that desire and heard from the council that we don't have a concern. So I don't anticipate the answer being no, but I'm not going to give an answer right now until we can talk to the GM or the kitchen, I suppose, because I don't know where this is coming from.
Well, we could stay in touch tomorrow, if that's your wishes, like Jim indicated, we need to know at least how it goes forward. But, you know, I think, I do have to say one last comment. One last comment, that's why I started earlier, talking about a feast. You know, and it's quite different than catering. I'm not talking about catering, we're talking about a feast. Feast and the Shinabi way of pulling together a feast. And it just, you know, it is kind of rubbed me a little differently because back in 1978, there was the Freedom of Religion Act that was passed that we put in place to fully practice our religion and our way of life. And what I'm saying is a feast. A feast is one of those ways that we put into practice. It's a feast. The feast, they put their zawiao and their prayers and everything into the food and pull that together. That's kind of what I'm talking about. And I'm a bit concerned with picking and choosing, you know, who can have a feast here at the facility. And I don't think we need to be gnawing into the future, the community or people need to run into this again. To be very
agree,
clear,
Marvin.
right up front.
I think we all agree and understand what you're expressing.
I guess one of the after things of that is there's another meeting that's coming up in 2 weeks. What is the stance to do for something like that? Like other things? So it's not just this one.
Yep, I took notes on all of those examples that you guys gave to make sure that we can provide the most comprehensive picture to the new GM and try to give understanding to the cultural significance, which I don't think he will be unaware of. Yeah.
In the church bazaar.
Okay.
All right.
Jimmy, you betcha. Here comes.
You know, kind of a difficult situation, perhaps, maybe, depending on how you look at it all. One of the bottom lines is that if a person is coming on new or if they've been here for a while, that's all consideration, that's good. The other thing is that if it's an administrative kind of decision, those things come from it's the tribal council that dictates and tells what is and what isn't. The administration might want one thing, but if the council wants something, they do step in and they make that change. And so we're just hoping that that's what will happen here, that you decide. And yeah, welcome the new chairman or the new council member or the new director or whatever it is, administrator, the one, that's fine and dandy. But also remember that it's the tribal council that makes that final decision. And we were kind of hoping that that would be coming across tonight under that consideration.
We understand. No racing away, guys.
That's good.
Good.
there anyone else that would like to go to community comment or concern? Please come to the table and we'll acknowledge.
May I have another one?
Hearing none, we're gonna move on to Bayfield School updates. Dr. Pat? Dina, come. You prefer Doc? Doc.
I prefer that.
Miigwech, everybody. It's always an honor to sit before you and offer some updates on the school district of Bayfield. Suddenly, here we are in March, and things at the school really pick up this time of year. We'll have our spring break at the end of this month, and then kind of all sites are just all of the spring things that we do to get our seniors to graduation and everybody to wrap up the school year. I did want to point out a few events and points of interest that myself and the administration have been working on the past month. We had a really successful winter camp. Although there wasn't a lot of snow, there was a lot of enthusiasm. We got our elementary through high school students to the Boys and Girls Club to engage in lots of different activities. I was able to go out for one afternoon and have some smoked fish, but also just see the language trainees sharing stories and kids all over the place, in and outside, and it was just a really wonderful team effort as usual with the tribe and the school district to bring these experiences to our children, to allow them the opportunity to get their hands on things and try and taste things. So that was great. I just was talking to Shay. We've got Sugar Bush collaboration happening. Our 6th graders will be heading out tomorrow to the Eagle Bay Sugar Bush, and if you've been driving in town, you see the buckets at the Park Service, and we're collecting sap there as well. Part of our effort in planning for next year is to take another step into how we incorporate these Ojibwe subsistence practices into our curriculum, into more than just an activity, but how do we make those connections in and out of the classroom, and how do we continue to bring Ojibwe culture, language to our students. So that's one piece of planning that will start now and really more in earnest as we make our way into the summer. A couple weeks ago, administration and Diane Erickson and Nikki Gurno had a first meeting, really a great discussion around how we can collaborate on supporting students with mental health challenges, specifically learning more about day treatment need, and then viability of how we could partner on something like that. It was the very first meeting and discussion, and what came from that first meeting was forming a smaller work group, because there were probably a full conference table of us, and I think it makes sense now to take that step, create a work group to continue to have the experts work together and see where we can go next. As I've shared, and as you're full aware, there's a lot of mental health needs that our students are experiencing and having, maybe since the pandemic, and this is just one step on us reaching out. Diane was great to respond right away when I communicated with her. She said, absolutely, we would love to come and meet with you and learn more. So please stay tuned for more information on that. I'm happy to announce our valedictorian for the class of 24 is Lucas Dunn, and our salutatorian is Trey Cameron. This is always fun and a cause for celebration for both of those young men. Lastly, I want to bring some updates on the district's collaboration and teamwork with the tribe around Ojibwe immersion. program planning. Excuse me. This Thursday, we'll have another family information session at the school, and there will be a Zoom link for people who aren't able to make it to learn more about what Ojibwe immersion classrooms look like. We'll have some resources available. We'll have some folks sharing more information on that pathway of instruction. As you know, the school is working with the tribe to see what a timeline might look like for implementation, to really assess family interest and commitment and what our student numbers might be. So we'll be working on that and taking that next step on Thursday. And then the school board and administration team will be coming together in kind of a workshop format after that to learn more about an action plan that I'll be putting together with the administration team and some teachers to hopefully take those next step toward addressing what has been for years and years and years a request from Redwood families. It's not new that families have continually asked the school, please incorporate more language and culture. JOM and the education department has had that and collected that data for many years every fall when they hand out school supplies for families. And so it's important for public schools to reflect the communities they get to serve, and I really see this as one important need that it's time to address. Those are all my updates. I'm happy to answer any questions, any comments, and any requests for information. Needed.
Do you want to just share about the facilities work that's being discussed?
Oh, sure. Chairwoman Boyd is referring to the facility assessment and work we're doing around potentially bringing referendum questions to the November 24 ballot. And we are currently putting together what sort of facility renovation and repair are needed at the district. And we're also taking a look at a possible operational referendum, requesting some additional funds to help us operate as a public school. Again, it's probably no surprise to you, but the state continually underfunds us as a public school, especially with special education. And we are continually having to stretch dollars, and we're continually coming up short. So we have had architects and take a look at how we use our facilities. So it's the Mainland School and the LaPointe Elementary Island School, and are tallying together and creating a list of dire repairs. For example, part of our roof needs to be replaced. A couple years ago, when we got a quote on that, it was over $500,000. With the cost of materials and everything else, I'm guessing it's going to be a little bit higher than that now, a few years later. So there are just some basic repairs, ADA compliance, for example, that the district really needs. Why? So that our children are safe, so they have a healthy place to learn, and we're working on that, and I'm happy to share more information as that becomes available.
I have a question. Does it seem like it's more of repairs and compliance than it is adding on again? What's your take on that?
That's a great question. It's a little bit of both. We certainly have need for some additional classroom spaces for basic instruction and special education. We also struggle with getting K-12 gym use, and scheduling is always difficult. And so part of our assessment was looking at the viability of not necessarily a full gym, but a half gym that our elementary phy-ed classes could have in that space, freeing up our gym for middle and high school. So the architect came back after doing a full assessment of the facility that it's possible to add 4 classrooms plus a gym to the Bayfield School. And then a pretty serious renovation or potential rebuild to everything but the gym at the LaPointe School. That's a really old facility that is in need of lots of repair and renovation. One major piece is to make it ADA compliant. So there's some big ticket items, but I would say some really important pieces for our children's educational spaces.
Based on like the ticket items and some of the research, finding funding to potentially buy some land for the future for a new school location, probably pretty tough to get right now.
Short answer, yes. I know that with each assessment of the school in Bayfield, the bones are great, the architects say. The demographics of the school district of Bayfield has changed since it began in 1895, and we know where the majority of the students from the district live. So it's certainly keeping that in mind as we're planning on renovation and expansion at the current facilities.
I have a question. It might be out of the blue or maybe it'll make sense, but the LaPointe School, you said it needs a lot of renovations and stuff like that. Well, doesn't that lie in like Ashland County? Is there any way we can tap into Ashland County for funds for that?
I wish we could, but the school is part of our district. And I honestly don't know the steps required for LaPointe to say we want to align and be a part of Ashland School District. I'm not sure how that happens. And I don't believe that we would be able to access any funds just because the land happens to be in what is seen as Ashland County. Yeah.
Any other questions for Beth?
As always,
for waiting, you could be patient.
yeah, no problem. Just call me, send me an email if anything comes to mind. I am always happy to field those, and I really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Bill.
Next on our agenda, we have sponsorship request, Aubrey DeVoe. Did Aubrey? Look at that head, look at that head dancer.
I think I laid everything out pretty much in the paper I submitted. I'm looking to do a parliament competition in April. It's about $1,100 in guesstimated funding wise. So if the tribe is able to sponsor in monetary wise, if not, possibly refer me to maybe a program or something like that. And then I'm also looking for, in the competition I get to wear like an undershirt, so leave some of the tribal logo somewhere on it, for permission to utilize that.
Chairwoman, didn't we make talk about last month or the month before that we could handle this administratively for other sports events?
Is it first time I'm seeing it? So it has not been presented to administration. Like Aubrey mentioned, there's potential programs or wraparound care efforts or other educational programs that may be a good fit. I don't know off the top of my head, but we can definitely point that in the right direction. Yeah, and you use of the tribal logo, I think is appropriate.
So, Aubrey, you got your, as our first agenda item come up about honoring our culture and our traditions. I do run a business off of efforts, and you know, if you give me your contact info, as well as be willing to sponsor part of your initiative.
I don't anticipate council having a action to take tonight, but somebody will be in touch with you and we know how to reach you. Language.
Thank you all.
Council, moving on to the treasurer's balance sheet for January 2024, Treasurer Gordon.
Good afternoon, council. I'm looking for an acceptance to, for the balance sheet for the month ending January. I wanted to point out one of the things that when I was going through it, if you look at the operating checking account, how much that has dropped from last month. I want to say a big thank you to Linnell and Becky for working hand in hand on getting this lowered, but it actually went down $824,000. That is a pot of money that really it's everybody that owes the tribe. But I just wanted to say thank you to the accountants and for all their hard work, and especially working hand in hand with each other. If there's any questions, let me know. And I will answer them.
Any questions from Laura? Council, if not, we need action to accept.
I'll make a motion to accept the balance sheet ending January 2024.
Second.
Motion by Butch to accept and a second by Brian. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions?
Aye.
One abstention, motion carries.
Miigwech Council.
Next on our agenda, we have Wellness Center site selection. Diane?
Good evening, council. So this is the third time that we've been before the council regarding the wellness center. And today, we're ready to recommend and hopefully select the site selection. So I don't know, we did provide a PowerPoint. I don't know if you, Morgan, I don't know if you want to go through it, or David, if you want to just run that. So what I want to say is we've mentioned each time the sites that we were looking at, and what you'll see tonight as we go through is we've narrowed it down to two. The Blueberry Road site and the Birch Park Trail site. Now, there's a scoring within the PowerPoint, and maybe we just go to that because that's the significant piece of this. We have the criteria, and we came up with a ranking or a scoring system based on those criteria, such as size, access for the community, the infrastructure, given that this particular project is not yet fully funded. We're over 50% of the funding, and I've listed resources such as the HUD, ICDBG, USDA community facilities, which I started to look at. They have both a grant and a loan type program. So that infrastructure was one of the components. So the difference between the two sites, they basically tied with the updated scoring system that we went through. And the vision for the wellness center comes down to either it sits directly on the Blueberry Road route, or the potential for the other site is to have more of a secluded facility that can really be wrapped around with other outdoor amenities and can really create that space of wellness and healing. So as we sit here today, we will take questions. I don't know, Morgan and David, if you want to say anything before we.
Yeah, so Diane and David and I have been looking at all of the criteria for the sites, and one of the really nice pieces about this late addition is Birch Bark, as Diane mentioned, is the inclusion of that site. It's a well-forested site. We could easily come in with a short access road at probably the most minimal cost of any of the sites, coming off of Birch Bark at Stubb Road. All the utilities are already there, with the exception of fiber, which should be going in the summer with the broadband at home. And I think Diane's vision of this is once you're in this site and it opens up inside this forest, it's going to include kind of a buffer against the other active areas of the community, meaning that you can go there to actually relax and heal and experience the wellness and the culture that the community is seeking. So it was a late addition to the site selection, but we feel that it's the best site out of all five.
And I want to mention that it was a late addition because the tribe has many projects happening now. So we had to also pay attention to what some of the other projects were doing. And I know you have the elderly apartments coming up shortly after this one, but the two, my recommendation and with the team is that the Birch Bark site really provides that whole feeling of that wellness and health and culture that we could create there. Blueberry Road is another option. The only one that we didn't feel was a fit is that Acorn site where it's split in two. That one would just be difficult to work with all the way around. So the recommendation from the team is to secure the Birch Bark site for the Wellness Center. Are there any questions I can answer?
Hey, put that map up. Put that map.
So will an entry road be off Jack Pine?
Right there.
And Birch Bark Trail on one end to go through?
So there were, when we talked about that, keep in mind, the infrastructure is not my wheelhouse. However, we did discuss that, and I think one of the options was to run the utilities off of that area, but you could run a road across over from the Bradham side. So there's still some options not to lock in there. But initially it was bringing the road and the utilities off of that road.
I think we would work with architects and engineers to make that decision, you guys. Like, we're not expecting anyone here to make that decision at all. And the Shodine master plan, I don't know how close that is to being done. But that's part of the bigger picture.
Got a question for Gabe Marty. If this site was chosen for off of Birch Bark, and you came in off of the southwest corner of Birch Bark Trail and came in between the two houses there. They would still have ample room for driveway space, so that one shouldn't be an issue. But my question is, like, there was a topo done to see if there's an elevation drop back there to where yet another lift station would have to be put in to be able to push it up to the sewer that's accessed right there on the corner of the road.
I don't know, excuse me, I don't know specifically about the lift stations into Daly, however, infrastructure-wise in connecting with Birch Bark Trail, I was out there today, and it's fairly flat leading into the property. There is a high spot. I'm gonna guess about a quarter mile in, that would be optimal. That would be higher up than everything else, and would be actually higher than the entrance from Daly. So I'm assuming, without any like specific spatial analysis on that, that it would gravity would be able to take it down there.
That's really what I wanted to hear. I mean, anytime that you can gravity align, you cut down costs like that by, depending on the size of the station, the facility is big, especially with expansion and stuff like that. You would be looking at an E1 station. You'd be looking at another small lift station like that, and that could be what, $250,000 like that to put that thing in. So anytime like that you can gravity feed, you're way ahead of the game.
One thing that is unique about this site that I particularly think is has a lot of potential for future development is the Shodine property is essentially a high spot of an ancient island, and it's extremely flat. So anything you do with the water up there is going to affect the downstream creeks, specifically Red Cliff Creek and Chicago Creek. So we have the opportunity with developing Shodine as well as Birch Bark we will be removing wetlands or mitigating wetlands, but we have the opportunity to create new wetlands and manage the water in a way that it may not flood into the house as it currently does. And so the other thing that, so I've walked both of these sites as well. So I've walked Birch Bark, Shodine, as well as Blueberry. The southern part of Shodine and Birch Bark have significant large pines there, as well as birch, which I think is culturally important to the tribe, and I would recommend building around those and facilitating outside space around those areas. That's my personal opinion. Especially with the wetlands, if you were to connect the Shodine property to Birch Bark, so this map that I handed you guys is a topo map, and so best access to the Birch Bark Trail would be the southern end. Basically, the delineated wetlands in the blue. There is enough tribal-owned property that could create the high side and continue through. You can actually see the divide between Chicago Creek and Red Cliff Creek, and follow that kind of pinkish shade over to the facility. So we have the potential to basically put the road at the high side and put the water where we want to put the water, in a sense. That makes sense to everybody.
So on the PowerPoint, or the discussion, we had the Birch Bark Trail location is #1, but on the PowerPoint, it sort of reflects Blueberry as #1.
PowerPoint. There's been so many versions of the PowerPoint, I'm not sure which one we have.
We were still working on it, like right up till noon. I'm still working on talking through whether or not it would come in as a tie that we could make a recommendation, but ultimately looking at the other projects that are going in and really looking at what we want. We want this inclusion versus it right on Blueberry Road. It tipped the scales at the last minute, David.
What type of comments did you get from the community on either location?
So this particular one had the community engagement up front, and it didn't come down to specific sites. It was, do you want it by the clinic, do you want it in a residential area, or do you want it on the commercial corridor? And the site that the community, the highest one was near the clinic. But we now know that that also may conflict with other future developments in that area toward elder housing, assisted living, those types of ventures.
I see, so really no particular data for your preference.
No, that was it, and then the residential neighborhood was second.
I just forwarded you guys the updated PowerPoint. It's basically the same information, just in a different order. Any other feedback, council? Any other discussion? We setting up for action.
I think with Ernie's question with elevation, were you satisfied with the answer?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve
I'll second.
the recommendation. Birch Park.
We have a motion by
Second.
Brian, a second by Laura. Any more discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thumbs up.
You're still here. Next, we have overdose prevention grant submission, Great Lakes Epidemiology Center. Everyone get a chance to review finance requests.
Council, what you have in front of you is an opportunity for a grant, and I'm so proud to sit here and say right now that it aligns with the newly approved tribal action plan. One of the objectives is to work toward providing educational opportunities for the community in trauma-informed historical trauma. And so the goal with the, we plan to apply for the full $50,000 under two strategies: community-based cultural interventions to address protective risk factors, and that would be to facilitate two additional historical trauma workshops like we're having on Thursday. The other one is health systems interventions. Also in our tribal action plan, we want to increase the number of peer specialists. Particularly, we're gearing toward parent peer specialists is what we're trying to find and bring that training to Red Cliff. So that's what the funding would be used for.
Motion to approve submission of grant.
Motion approved by Laura.
Second.
Second by Scott. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? One abstention. Motion carries. Which?
Thanks, Diane.
Miigwech.
Next on our agenda is 2024 Resilient Food Systems Infrastructure Resolution. Jay? Ms. Schuckemeyer.
Boju, at the last council meeting, Alyssa presented
and the council authorized for us to apply for the USDA Resilient Food System Infrastructure Grant. And I'm here tonight seeking approval for the council to pass a resolution authorizing this grant to be submitted. This resolution is not a requirement of the application, but we feel like it will strengthen the application. Wisconsin was awarded $28 million for this grant, and there has not been a travel set aside. So we've been working really hard with the Great Lakes Intertribal Food Coalition to collaboratively write these 7 applications, and Red Cliff is one of those 7. And so in addition to this resolution, we are also going to have an abundance of letters of support from these other tribal nations and partners. I'm assuming this was reviewed by legal because the approval sheet, but the one paragraph reads really strange to me because it says, for elder members of 11 tribes and 2 tribes and 2 food distribution centers in Milwaukee. That sounds just really hard to understand which tribes we're talking about. If it's the 11 federally recognized in the state and who the other 2 tribes are, I have no idea. I could guess maybe, but so if that could get cleaned up, if we are approving our request, approvals will change. Well,
Yeah.
it's not clear.
It
It's
can
provide
clarity
after that. Or just say 13 tribes.
Because, yeah, because it doesn't have a boundary requirement on it. Reads it 13 tribes.
Yeah. Whatever, she can work with legal to figure it out, but it just reads strange right now.
When do you have to have this?
We need to submit the grant on Wednesday.
By 5.
Well, we are at the top for the rest of the week.
Melissa will have to sign, or Laura.
Motion to approve the changes.
We got a motion by Scott.
Second.
Second by David. Any other discussion?
Just a quick question, were the 7 letters of support that we submitted signed, so they can be attached?
I did not sign those. I asked my secretary to follow up, because I'm not clear if every other tribe signed letters of support for
Yeah.
us, even though we're all competing against each other for the same pot of money. No, they have. It just seems different. Yeah, but she was gonna follow up and find out. I haven't received that feedback yet, but she has. Yeah. And we're aware it's due on
Whole
Wednesday.
folder full of letters of support from other tribes as well as other entities.
Rich, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll get on that tomorrow morning.
Dave's got it. All right, Marvin, up with the Powell budget.
We do again, council. As you have, I believe, the budget for this year's all. So you have the budget, you also have the revenue generating sheet also that's included in there. And I just wanted to point out, I'm not sure if you have on the request to waive, is that on there?
That's on your agenda request.
No, okay, well, that's good.
One is the budget, and B is to waive the procurement costs.
We don't need that. We don't, that's the second one, we found one that was approved a couple of years ago, we're good for this year. Well, we don't need that this evening to waive for this year, it's good till 2024. But the budget, we do need. Right, so you have before you the budget, you have a group committee that's been meeting, maybe 3 or 4 times, maybe 3 times here now, and that's the first thing we helped develop this budget that you're seeing there. We have a couple changes that we put on the budget. One change was this budget hasn't really increased in any line item. I went back at least for 7 years. So we felt because of COVID, because of cost of living, et cetera, we wanted to increase some of those line items for the, that you see before there. Bottom line, 85,720 is what we came up with for the budget. Before I go into the revenue, is there any questions needed on the budget? Anyone?
Our total number is $87,055. Is that on yours also?
No, I'm sorry, I must have added wrong. It's right.
What's your total?
I have 85, but. I must have grabbed, I apologize, I must have grabbed it wrong, but I know we had, we'll go by the budget you have.
Yeah, this is the one you sent Nora.
That's the one I sent you, that's the correct one. Great. And then the revenue page, certainly, we're very aware and very cognizant of we gotta generate some revenue, for the fall. And I, ever since I've been involved helping out this fall, we did from last year, had a carryover in our budget, like $18,000 in our budget, which is, I've never seen that happen. Usually we start the fall, we start off with this. Usually. But this year we're in a good place, and that tells me we did something right a little different last year. And what it was the revenue. We identified very clearly what the revenue, where it was coming from, et cetera, and that's where the sheet is. The bottom line, we feel, we're confident we could get pretty close to 99,344. That's what we feel. That's a good estimate, including button sales, vendor fees. We increased the vendor rent a little more. So what you see there is some of our revenue that we're trying to. One thing we want to do this year also, what we didn't do, was we're developing a letter asking the vendors. I called down to procurement, I said, how many vendors do we have for Red Cliff Tribe? And it's in the thousands. The thousands of vendors. So we feel, maybe not all of them, but we feel maybe some of the high-end ones, the high-end vendors that we could, we have a letter we want to present to them. And usually, through my experience, if you ask, usually you would get something. And that's part of that. That is not included in this also. But that's one of the things we kind of want to do. We have a lot of, I've seen a lot of collaboration and cooperation from the community. And also a lot of collaboration from the program. A lot of the programs are really fired up and willing to help out. So that, for an example, the water walk. That's usually pretty good. We ran out of t-shirts last year. There was such a desire for the community and people of more than water walk. We had a lot of the DV program help with that. The launch program helped with that. So those are some of the things that we're going to continue working with the program that can contribute and will help to contribute for the public.
So Marvin, again, having just called the bingo yesterday for the junior class, the last two bingos that have been held as fundraisers, $30 packs, have raised like $4,800 and now over $5,000 yesterday. That would be, even if you did it quarterly over the space of a year, did 4 bingos and raised funds, that's a potential, let's say, $16,000 to $20,000 that you could raise to that, and the community will be in this building supporting it, because I know they love bingo, number one, but they'll support an activity like this, rather than at times scrounging, going, what can we do, what can we do? And the proven track record is actually in doing something like that. Just a suggestion, when you're talking to your committee and that, it's not hard to put together. And like I said, the community will buy into it.
Yeah, we could propose that to the group, something like that could be worked on. Projects, remember 1 year, 2, 5, yeah, 1 day, 1 lunch hour, yeah. But, yeah, those are things certainly good that we're open to do. It's just a matter of, picking it up and doing something.
The reason we felt it was vital to bring the budget forward to council is we can't procure anything from the budget until council approves it. And we've already put out an RFP for crowns, because we definitely need to give our crafts people plenty of time to do that hard work. And there's some other things that we need to procure just to get secured and in place. I try to make it to as many call meetings as I can, and when I can't make it, I meet with Marvin at a different time. Council action, if you're inclined.
Motion to approve power budget.
Second.
Motion to approve by Nora and second by Scott. Any more discussion, council? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. Bergstrom.
All of them great ones.
Thank you for staying.
Yeah.
Oh, I apologize. I need to announce the resolution number under item 4, under the 2024 Resilient Food Systems Infrastructure Resolution.
3424A.
I forgot. All right, guys.
It's on.
Good evening. We're here to present the sites that were selected for the elderly housing. We did a elderly community input, and the 2 top ones were the Aiken property, which is in your PowerPoint, and the Birch Bark Trail one that just got approved with wellness. So those are the top 2 that the elderly chose when we did the input session, and also there is some advantages and disadvantages of the Aiken site, which are included in your packet. It would be the site that's almost shovel ready at this point. And then there is a grant in the works for another elderly complex, which there's 10 acres behind this one, so it'd be perfect for expansion also if the Aiken property is chosen.
That would be the Birch Bark Trail one, you said?
That was the second one.
Second one?
Yeah, the one that you just selected for wellness was the second choice. I did include the count of the input session in your packet.
We also own all this property.
Behind it, yeah.
Behind it, all the way to the garage.
Yeah, there's 10 acres behind it that's not cleared. So for this elderly complex, we need about 2 acres, and then behind it would be hopefully another additional elderly complex.
So how many people were at that listening session?
38.
Was there any other outreach to elders that didn't attend?
There was a feasibility study that was done to the elders last October, so we got a lot of input from that, and that's also in your packet, the elderly feasibility study. And so there were some things that they were requesting for the housing, and so we tried to, use some of their feedback on that.
And how many was that?
Of feasibility study?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't just one survey or anything when we wrote that for council last year. It was a bunch of input. We pulled out all the elder data from the census at the time as well, so we could see, incomes, things like that to support the affordable housing need.
There was also, we kind of were wanting to request to use the same floor plan with a little bit of modification of the Richard Gurnall Villa to save some money, because they wanted some additional items in the facilities like washers and dryers and dishwashers and things like that. So that'd be a cost saving mechanism to add those things that they were requesting. And also maybe with that, we were thinking to add the fire pit to the culture center if we had enough saved. Nicole had an idea of a steel structure that was used down by Ocean, and we thought it'd be perfect for the cultural center. It's like a wigwam kind of thing. So if we kind of use that, we could save money. Joe thought this would be about $100,000 to do this design.
That'd be a standalone building?
It'd be the fire pit at the cultural center. So we'd save about $300,000 if we use the Richard Gurnall Villa.
I think I could get those from the whole chair.
Yeah, if you have
Those plans, I think I could get.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen it right now.
Sound of Black River Falls, their new community wellness center, which I was really surprised when I was talking to Diane because they hadn't been there, but it's literally like in the woods. You just kind of come out of the woods and there's their huge wellness center. And it's pretty
So that's all metal. It would have to be fabricated, but it would kind of kill two birds with one stone. We get the elderly complex and we finish the cultural center with the money we save using the same plans. So.
Yeah, we might have even more leftover plans or more leftover money depending on cost.
So is there a reason why that Birch Park Trail property could be shared with this as well?
There's federal wetlands between that and the Shoei property. So there wouldn't be enough land right there for both. It encompasses both properties.
But if it's only a 2-acre footprint and the description for expansion, that still tells me there's room. If it's laid out correctly, that to me it makes just too much sense. Especially when you're going to put all the infrastructure in there to try to not to cram it in there because we need to, but to incorporate that within the layout of the land and the design throughout if you're going to truly develop something for the land use, and it makes best use of the land since we're limited. Instead of putting things here and here and here and 10 acres of land that's set aside for this that really only needs 20 acres here that only needs 5. You gotta make sense of it.
So, when looking at the Birch Bark location, there's no way to expand to the south. We'd have to expand to the west, and that would require more road infrastructure as well as sewer, which is not. We're already working with the Shodine, and so we'll have infrastructure coming from that side. However, a lot of the wellness was its isolation and its connectivity to nature, not having everything kind of packed together. In regards to the elderly, they seem to be wanting to be closer to the clinic and closer to the infrastructure that's over there.
However, you're contradicting yourself because the statement was that the Birch Bark Trail was first picked, and you're looking at it as instead of looking at it just as one project and being smart about it, because we have to be conservative with our land base.
I agree.
And we have to make sure that we're doing that. And you're the
And so,
yes, guys.
and so regards to infrastructure with Aiken Road, it's already there. And so we can have those projects, the elderly projects, be one cohesive big picture project where I agree. We have a tendency to look at mouse vision and see these little projects and do this and here, not seeing the full picture of what's going on. And so the restrictions building-wise at both Aiken as well as Birch Park are slightly different. So in regards to trails, which are more of a wellness thing, that is more likely to be feasible around the Shodine and over towards Blueberry and over towards Pageant Road. And big picture, if you want to entangle all of the, for lack of a better term, youthful activities.
Well,
no, go for it.
Here's where you're mistaken.
Okay.
When you're talking about wellness and there's reasons why people feel healthy when they're exposed to other people, not segregated, and you're just, to me, a big little baffled.
So
when I
the
listen
reason why I said that elderly.
Well, hold on. And your reason of infrastructure is not convincing me, because sometimes, as stated, we don't look past the bridge of our nose, and we think of projects as singular. And to me, when I'm thinking of the elder complex and wellness facility, that just goes together. And when you're talking about it, using it as a singular purpose, as the youthfulness, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, can I correct my phrase on that? Youthfulness as in ADA compliant, as in flat, as in it's accessible via.
We have to make sure it's accessible for everyone.
Yeah.
A couple of things, Brian. Yeah, the elderly, they wanted to be close to the health facility, and they wanted it quiet, a quiet area that was part of overall visibility, and some of their comments at the feedback session that they wanted it quiet. So so that was, Aiken was number 1, and then Birch Park was number 2. So.
Hi, Council. This is Rick. I'd like to say something also. I was there at the elderly input session in regard to choosing this site. And this is something that I have been working with the elders and speaking to them for many years. The overwhelming, in my opinion, number of them do not want to be around any housing complex. They're fed up with it. They can't even, Marvin Morris used to say, he can't even walk his dog at night. There's cars speeding around, fireworks, there's everything. They wanted their own space. And at the elder input session last week, several of them voiced their support for being close to the clinic. They want to be able to not only walk there, but have a closer proximity to the EMS and ambulance facilities. Sammy LaGrue specifically said he wanted to be close to the new EMS facility. In regard to the infrastructure is there on Aiken Road. And another thing that I brought up to the elders is that We are on a very tight timeline here to spend this money. This is ARPA money. We have to have this expended by the end of 2026, so any infrastructure development that does not exist is going to add time to this project.
So we weren't quite sure what exactly we're approving. Or can you pull them up on the thing there? Yeah. We're also, have later on the agenda, Liz is here for the Indian Housing Block Grant competitive that we intend to apply for. For matching the 12 units, so it'd be 24 units. And that needs to be taken into consideration for moving in that direction. We could build one from 2 places. They don't all have to be grouped together.
I'll let you know what's up. Well, you gotta push.
There was feedback and comments as well at the elderly session about taking space from the farm that has already been cultivated to the level that it is at. So I just want to be transparent with the council that it wasn't all conclusive that using existing farm space was the best choice, was a choice.
Well, even within this document that we did receive, if you go through and how this is listed out, when it says pros and cons, and, you know, I looked at it in a simple manner. When I see, and it was just like it was presented when we first said, well, we wanted Birch Bark Trail. That's representative in this document, with one con listed in on the property, and the rest have 3, 5, or whatever it is. So, I mean, I just go off of this. I try to make sense of things.
Right, and whatever the council chooses, plan will move forward, so it's ultimately whatever we'll go with. There was a link on Laura's email that had the snap thing on it, but so
David has them up on the screen.
yeah, either
for
property
anyone
is
who would like to. And this was presented at the elder session. Yeah. It hasn't been presented outside of that. But
we looked at a lot of different sites and narrowed it down to the ones that are on that.
So we shared a lot of discussion, and yeah, there's pros and cons, but which model is really the one wanted? You know, that's what I would ask. Always, which model really is wanted by the community?
The top 2 were the Birch Bark and Aiken were the top 2 of everything that we've done or talked about.
So we got Birch Bark.
Yep.
With one con is the land prep, and then Aiken's got pollination, and really they're not really terrible losses in some people's eyes, like loss of farm space, potential farm space, and then the fish pile. So how are you gonna get through that with the smell, right? So that's probably the most severe con of the whole 3.1.
One issue with the farm is moving the fish compost will change the farming practice. It'll have to be a till instead of a no-till farming. However, the farm does not have enough land as is, and so even if they expanded, they would still need more room, is my current understanding. So even coming down the line, we're going to need more room for the farm. It's a logistic issue that will have to cross that bridge if this site is chosen, and that is a con. There are fewer cons on Birch Bark for, that's what we were able to come up with.
Hi, council, can you hear me?
Yeah, Rick, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if you heard what I said earlier about the timeline on this thing.
Yeah, we heard you. It's the same as the Shodine property timeline.
Yep. Again, you know, I mean, we have to take into consideration what the elders are asking for. You know, this is going to be their property. This is going to be their facility. I understand the logistical issues with the farm, and I do understand their concerns. But I have said in the past, and I'll say it here again in open session, that, you know, if I have to make a choice between what our elders want and need versus the farm, I'm going to choose what the elders want. I don't like pitting one against the other, and that's not what I want to. I hope I'm not sounding that way. But I do believe that, you know, I mean, you know, what's the difference? You know, and again, I'm not an agriculture expert here, but what's the difference between having the fish pile where it is and putting it somewhere else? Why does the whole dynamic of the farming need to change?
Either option we're willing to move forward with, so whatever council chooses.
So my thoughts are, besides what the council would choose, I really, I know working with Diane, early on, we had to talk about what does the elders really want, even though there's cons and pros. You know, what did the elders speak up and want? That's what I would like to hear, because I see a lot of different models that we went back and forth on, but I'd like to really know which one they really want.
I took all the notes for the elder input planning session, and I went table to table and talked to all of the elders. They said they wanted their own space. They didn't want to be in any housing development areas. They wanted to be in close proximity to the clinic and to the EMS. How many were there? So 16 of them wanted the Aiken property and 10 wanted the Birch Bark Trail. And they said with being down at the end of Aiken, they would feel safer because there's like not outside access from the other side of Aiken. And I think that's about it, but yeah, most of the elders wanted Aiken because they wanted to be close to the EMS and to the clinic.
What percentage of the elders is this? So, how many elders do we have in our community? 140? So are we really between that age? 200 and some, so we own 88. 200, almost 300, and we have what, 40 people maybe there?
Not even.
So we're letting 38 elders decide where we want.
We could take the two to a community vote. But that's if the council wants to even approve those two.
If we did approve those two, how is our timing? Because I know we don't just want to go out and pick something and just throw it up. But we're to select two and get the elders input, community input again. You know?
I think it would be a good thing to do because I would hate to make this decision on 16 individuals out of 300 possible. It just makes more sense to get what the community would want. So
we could,
So, you know, I mean, I think we could expeditiously put together a survey of some type to get it out to the community and actually see what decisions are out there by the elders.
Let's put out the Aiken Road and the Birch Bark Trail for community input.
That's progress. That's narrowing it down more than right now. We had 5 or 6 on the agenda when we went to meet with them. And we opened it up for any other areas of idea.
What is the age limit as an elder that you're looking at?
55 plus is our age for elder. 55 plus.
And I think,
Yeah.
so we can definitely do a survey monkey, get it up to the elderly feeding and then come back, or just take the highest number and go with that, or whatever the council wants us to do.
I think they want to hear, they want more feedback is what I'm hearing on at least the 2 sites. Anything else for back here, Joe? Joe has a speech prepared. Oh, hold on. Speech. Thank you. Chief Hall, the FEMA Assistance to Firefighters grant. Everyone has a copy of what we provided. Questions on the $100,000 request? We need council approval to apply, but if you have questions for Chief Hall, you can answer them. Pretty self-explanatory what's being proposed. Equipment and
Make a motion to approve the FY23 Assistance to Firefighters Grant Program application.
motion by Butch to approve, second by Ernie. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. Good luck.
Thank you. And just to confirm that bottom point, if the 5% match is required even after the economic hardship waiver, we do intend to use the ARPA monies that have already been set aside for the fire department, if that is something the council is comfortable with.
Have they already been spent?
They have not already been spent.
If they're not spent, they can be used. Because they came out of government, whatever. But even their other BIA, their 638 allocation could be used as well.
638 is mostly expended, not expended, but allocated, but the third-party funding could support the 5%.
Well, does it have to be cash?
It does not have to be cash. That is what we're hoping to do. Okay. Any which council?
Thanks, Jesse. This is Indian Housing Block Grant submission.
Just seeking council authorization to allow us, the planning department, to apply for the IHBG competitive. You can apply for up to $7.5 million, but we would like to apply for $5 million through the HUD grant and tie it into another 12-unit elderly apartment complex.
We applied for this last year, just for those that weren't here, and we applied on behalf of the housing authority, so they were the applicant. However, we feel like it's in the best interest and more competitive for the tribe to be the applicant, and so that's the recommendation from the administration.
Make a motion approved, sorry.
We got a motion by David and a second by Laura. Any other discussion?
Yeah, who would manage the grant then? Would the housing be managing it? or
No,
would
the
the
tribe.
We would build a project manager in the budget.
Sweet.
question.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries.
Thank you, guys.
Pretty much Liz. Liz is gonna get her feet wet on Grant writing real quick. Next on the agenda, Family Violence Prevention Grant submission.
You want me to go to the other side of the table?
Laura?
So this is a renewal of a grant. It's a mandatory formula grant, so we apply for it every 2 years. We don't know the amount, so it's non-competitive. So we're looking at roughly $55,000. Needs to be submitted by the end of the month. So we're looking for approval to submit the grant application.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Butch to approve, second by Brian. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Aye. One abstention, motion carries. I don't think it needs a resolution. Is it? All right, resolution number.
3424B.
All right, Council, you saw the February 5th and February 19th minutes in your packet.
Second, corrections if needed.
Motion by Ernie to approve the corrections as needed. I missed the second. David. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. Next, commercial fishing regulations approved changes. Dave and Ian, does everyone know? Ian, do you know?
This is back after posting for your consideration for approval. I will note that we received some comments through the minutes from the fishing committee. There were 3 comments that were received, well, really 4. One has to do with 7.2.3B, which is the amended definition of required equipment. There was a motion made by the fishing committee that section should be changed to include language that would allow a trap net to be lifted for the required equipment. The current language reads that you would need a powered net lifter. The new language would read that you need a powered net lifter capable of lifting a gill net, and the fishing committee has suggested that that should read and/or a trap net. The concern with that, and we've discussed this at the administrative level, is that the ability to lift a commercial gill net is an entry level qualification for the boat. That you don't get a license unless you have a big boat that's capable of lifting a commercial gill net. And if you say and/or trap net, that would essentially open this to other people that wouldn't ordinarily be eligible for it. So it would kind of gut their rule. The second comment had to do with the definition of active fishing, which isn't among the issues. I'm sorry. This would be section 7.9, 2.9. And this isn't the definition of active fishing. This is a section of the code proposed to be revised that 7 point what? Let me 2.9. And so, in the next round of changes, you'll hear that there will be a restriction proposed that if you don't actively fish your effort by July 15th. It will be reallocated to other fisheries. In connection with that, there's a proposed change in 7.2.9 that says, that the committee noticed, if the licensee, big boat or small boat commercial gill net fishing license permit holder does not participate in any commercial fishing activity by July 15, their license shall be suspended for the remaining of the fishing year, and their footage and tags shall be turned over to the Red Cliff Fisheries Department for redistribution. And the objection there is the idea that you should be able to use trap net fishing to meet that definition if you're running the tribe's provisional license. That's the argument. That if you're the provisional license holder, you're running the trap net boat for the Buffalo Bay Fish Company, that you would still be eligible for a big boat because you can use the net fish as a trap net fisher to meet that requirement. Again, arguably expanding the entry for people into having a big boat license. And so there was widespread agreement amongst the administrative team that those two things were not things that should be changed.
Yes, for clarification, those comments are coming out of the fishing committee?
Yes. These are through the minutes that were routed to me, and so I know that you guys want to know whether or not there are comments, and I interpreted those to be comments, right? They came out of committee. They're on the record saying that they think these tweaks should be made after the posting, and so I'm bringing this to your attention. The third thing has to do with 7.9.2 that reserves a third of the quota for small boaters. And there was an argument that I still have difficulty following, that the percentages between the two should be adjusted upward for small boaters. And so the way that this works, 792, after deducting and setting aside a portion of the quota to cover home use consumption, the Fisheries Department allocates a portion of the quota in the form of tags and an allocation of net effort to each tribal member possessing a valid big boat commercial gill net fishing license and permit at the start of the fishing season, reserving a portion of the quota not to exceed 33% collectively for all small boat commercial gill net permit holders, and not to exceed 1.9% for each individual small boat commercial gill net holder. And that's to guard against a situation which we expect to unfold, which is as you restrict the ability of folks to get small boat tags and effort and then give them to somebody else, let somebody else fish them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that there won't be as many small boat fishers. And therefore, if we didn't cap the amount of individual effort, it would mean that one or two or maybe three people would get huge allocations of footage and efforts as a small boater. And so you cap the amount that each individual small boater could have in terms of effort and tags at 1.9%. There was an argument that if you run the percentages in the math, that really should be 2.5%. And the committee didn't feel that that was an unreasonable adjustment upward or that it would present any particular issue, so they're fine with that change. It's going to be allocated equally anyway. The difference between 1.9% and 2.5% isn't that significant, and so the administrative team is in support of that. The other change, the other comments that we received had to do with strikeout language that did not show up in the posting, and that is my mistake. That throughout the posting there's various strikeout language that was not stricken. And so I'm asking that you approve the changes with amendments, including the strikeout language.
So, Dave, I just got a question for you on that last, small vote, 33%, 1.9%.
Yep.
You know, I know the original intent of why these were to be changed, because we had 40 small votes.
Yep.
And 5 of them that were actually trying to fish and make a difference for themselves. And to me, you know, some of these things that are coming after the fact, you just try to make it a little more confusing and not straightforward. Am I crazy or what is it?
It gets lost in the weeds pretty quick, and I agree, when you start to make comparisons between the percentage and how much money you're paying for your license and whether or not that gives you a fair cut, I agree. I mean, I think we're getting off in the weeds. I thought 1.9% was fine, it seemed reasonable, it seems like it would work. But if the committee wants to cap it at 2.5, we don't see a significant change, and so we're fine with that.
You know, the problem is, just like, not just because it's commercial fishing, but all boats that are developed for, especially when we're talking about tree harvest or whatever it is. And I think there's a confusion within amongst some that think it's to put up barriers to practice. And, you know, what it is you really try to live with them. I said this when we first brought this up, and it's a prime example when we talk about this event that's going to be happening on Friday. And the efforts put forward by our tribal members to practice and to do something that is embedded in our culture. This is Red Cliff's culture, and truly understanding that, I think sometimes it falls on deaf ears, but really what that is, and the preservation of that. And, you know, I take pride in what I do, and I try to do it in a respectful way, and provide to the community and do other things. That's me. But I understand, and I've understood treaty rights and all this other stuff, and you hear about people cutting their teeth on this, and you know, I can remember my mom fishing downtown and having the goddamn wardens laugh when she had to put the fish in the back of her own goddamn car. And she was weighing 100 pounds, and the boxes were more than 100 pounds. And she held a Red Cliff license. And, you know, the efforts that were put forth of people, you know, Cecil over in Michigan, having us, Jamokamon threaten, calling Tina and say, hey, we're going to blow his boat up, we're going to shoot him and come to the Saxon River. And having to call, you know, people like Walt Brissett to go stand guard over there, make sure they get home safe. And I think of these things as we go through this process. And I look at this, and I know the reason why this is coming about. But to really think of it, and you know, we've had a couple bad actors why we create these really restrictive codes and try to have definitions that are so goddamn confusing that it really discourages people from doing something and really practicing in a culture that is dying, and making sure there's opportunity for others that really want to try to survive and live in. It's a balance that we have to try to figure out. But some of this stuff is it's not creating that balance. It just creates more confusion. And, you know, listening to you talk, and it's just like, you know, it come from the committee, that's like a little iffy, because they're trying to make up stuff as a goal, just to try to protect something. Well, it's the same thing with this license that goes to the tribe. You know, I said, it takes away from me. Create a goddamn license, it goes and people follow what is already, what places precedence. Don't make special accommodations or considerations to that. You know, hold whomever that is, just as accountable as I have to be, or as anybody else. You know, I said just had court, you know. And I had, you know, if I leave or do something wrong that is unintentional, you know, that's on me. I take care of it. But there's people that do things intentionally. We sit on our fishing committee now or whatever, and we put the rules. But we have to make sense of it. We have to be realistic. And, you know, there's a timeline because this person said, no going. It's not. If you do it, it's going to come back next month and we have to change it again because it just doesn't make sense.
Truth in all of the comments that you said, Brian, and I'd love it if we could keep this real simple. And you're right, it's getting kind of complicated. And the reason for that, I think you pointed out, you know, you got some bad actors and you got to tighten some of this stuff up. That's what we're trying to do. I expect the second round of changes will be much more controversial. But I am looking for a motion to approve. I did draft up a resolution. No.
I make a motion to approve.
With a conforming resolution. If that's okay.
It is okay for my motion.
And then I'll make sure that we make the changes, the 1.9 to 2.5%, and the strikeout language, we'll make sure we get in there.
We have a motion on the floor by David. Is there?
I'll second it, Chairwoman.
Gotcha, Rick. With a second by Rick. Any more discussion? Clarifications? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Abstention. Motion carries.
Good job.
Good, guys. I come to this table at the fishing thing like super objective because I don't have any skin in the game and I just want to do what's best and right for Rick. And so I have the dumbest questions there, guys. Like everything you can imagine, so.
It's good to have dumb questions.
Well, I need to understand.
That's the part that makes us think.
If I'm gonna approve tribal code of law, I wanna understand what I'm approving, and so, man.
I'm gonna apologize for missing the common concern, for the community. I spaced it out. But I'll be working with Melissa. They're having a 25th annual of the Mille Lacs case on the 21st to walk. 22nd is the event in Mille Lacs. And they're asking Greg if we can assist them in the walk by covering Bayfield cornucopia, similar to our healing walk. And I've already put an email into Melissa, and together we're going to work to try to get that together. And Nora, we want you there.
We can walk, run, skip.
Walk, run, like we do for the healing walk run. This
March
month.
22nd, yeah. So
March 22nd.
Yeah, 21st, we're going to do the walk.
We'll be back.
Yeah. And then on the 22nd will be an event in Mille Lacs. We'll be looking for walkers, runners to cover that on the 21st.
You go, Mark. We'll watch for that information if you could send it up though, because it is getting close. Maybe we could get the school involved.
I'm
Kids.
sure that the kids are doing their part.
We're working with Melissa today, all the way up through the whole thing, we'll do that.
All right, Amarin, we're ready for you.
Hello. I have some items for you tonight.
Motion by Nora and a second by Laura. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carried. Resolution number, well, we need a resolution on the last one. Sorry. Do you want a conforming resolution?
3424C.
Okay, and then the tap lease would be,
3424D as in dog.
Sorry, I'm getting some feedback. That's one of the February to the PM and Freedom Gordon, that subdivision lot 106.
any questions for Cameron? The motion approved by Brian. Second by Scott. 2.5 by Laura. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, abstentions? One abstention, Grandpa Butch. All those in, or, never mind, motion carries.
3424E.
Thanks, Cameron. Thanks, Marlene.
Yeah, thank you.
Happy Butch, happy family.
Yeah, good night.
Keep going. Also, you see one BDC application in your packet. I just want to reinforce that I think. So are you motioning to deny, or is anybody? We have a motion on the floor by Butch to deny the BDC application. Second by Ernie. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions?
Aye.
One abstention. Motion carries. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Election timeframes.
Yeah, we only have one comment they've had is the 23rd. We certify the candidates and then I need to post the same day. And I don't know if the poll had any comments. Something.
Shared it with me. I don't.
So what's wrong with the 23rd?
It's just recertified and then I have to post that night.
I count 11 days, I think, from the 23rd to the 3rd, because you got 8 days in the end of, no, you get 7 days the end of it. 8, 9, 10, yeah, it's pushing.
Is it?
That's 10 days.
It's kind of glitchy.
Yeah, I don't know, I was thinking it was May.
Do you need action on this, or is it?
Yes, that's the action.
Motion to approve time frame. Approve time frame. Second.
We have a motion by Butch and a second by Scott. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Motion carries. Motion to adjourn, we didn't even put other on this agenda. Motion by Brian. Motion by Brian.
Second.
Second by Laura.
Is this to adjourn?
Yes. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, abstentions, motion carries, meeting adjourned 7:24. Okay. Any which?
I guess I'll see you do it one.
Safe travels, y'all. That are y'all.
You know what?